Welcome back to the latest episode of Conference Chatter TV, where I'm here to reflect on the games that I picked in Week 10 in the Big 12 this college football season, which was by far the craziest week that I've seen to date this college football season in the Big 12. Just crazy comebacks, crazy upsets everywhere. It was an exciting week in the Big 12, and I'm here to reflect on those games that I predicted. I appreciate you guys checking out the latest episode. My name's Eric Sorrentino. I'm the KUSports.com Big 12 blogger, and this past week was just wild. In one word, I went 2-4. Did not have a good week, but there were some crazy games that we'll get to here in a few, and I'll give my reaction on those here upcoming in this next episode. My record on the season after going 2-4 this week is 61-16. Picking Big 12 games at a 79% clip. But this week was full of surprises, none more than Kansas coming back to beat Colorado 52-45 in one of the most bizarre games that, well, I would say that I've ever seen, but it wasn't on TV, so I actually didn't get to see it. But just one of the most crazy games I've ever followed. I mean, this was crazy. KU down 45-17. In the fourth quarter, the Jayhawks, who really haven't moved the ball or scored with any sense of consistency all season, score 35 unanswered points, 5 touchdowns, and win the game 52-45. KU setting all sorts of records. It was the biggest comeback, fourth quarter comeback in KU history, and the second biggest fourth quarter comeback in NCAA history, which is incredible. With the victory, KU broke an 11-game conference losing streak, and Colorado just cannot win on the road, even when they're ahead 45-17 in the fourth quarter. The Buffs, now with a 16-game road losing streak. This was just crazy. I don't even know what to say about this game, but this was a terrible loss for Colorado. I mean, you need a fire extinguisher now for the hot seat that Dan Hawkins is on. I don't know how this guy can be the coach in Boulder next season. I would be very surprised if that were the case. But the main story here was KU. I mean, where did this come from? They were forcing turnovers. They were breaking big runs. They were making big plays. They hadn't done that all season long. I mean, we saw flashes against Georgia Tech, but that was just one game. And you talk about 35 unanswered points. It seemed to come out of nowhere. I mean, to put this into perspective, KU hadn't had 35 points in its previous 3 games combined. So, this was a huge win for Turner Gill. His first Big 12 victory in his time in being a head football coach. And maybe this is what KU needs to maybe turn the corner a little bit of getting blown out every single game. Maybe this is the game that Turner Gill needs to start a better career at KU than he had displayed earlier on. And I just don't know what else to say. I mean, I think 45-17. I was following it online on KUSports.com. I went away for a few minutes. I come back and it's 45 all, and I'm thinking, what in the heck is going on? But that was impressive. I mean, KU, they might not win another game in the Big 12 this season, but I'm sure Jayhawk fans don't really care after this performance. This was a performance for the ages, an epic comeback of monumental proportions for Kansas, and wow, what a game. I picked Colorado. I got that one wrong, so that was one of the games that I incorrectly predicted here. Let's get to a few other ones. Another one that I missed, Texas A&M 33, Oklahoma 19. Had faith in the Sooners here, but, Oklahoma continues to struggle on the road. The Sooners are now, they're just 6-6 in their last 12 Big 12 battles dating back to a couple seasons ago. And, if the Sooners are away from Norman, they are beatable. They're very beatable. Now, in Norman is a different story. They have the country's longest winning streak, but when they're not in Norman, this is not the same team, not at least this season. And for Texas A&M, got to give them credit. Their quarterback, Ryan Tannehill, continues to give that offense a spark that was lacking with Gerard Johnson. And so that's a great story, and credit A&M for getting the job done. But I think the defense for the Aggies was the story here. You take a look at A&M, they held OU on 4th and 1 from the 1-yard line on 3 separate occasions. This is a defense that you would not expect to do that for Mike Sherman's tenure in his 3 years in College Station. This defense, we didn't see this in the past 3 years. And the fans were appreciative. The A&M fans were chanting "Wrecking Crew," alluding to the stout Aggies defenses from the 80s and early 90s. That seemed like a distant memory for the past 3 years. That there was nowhere even close to the Wrecking Crew defenses that were back in College Station in those days. But this is no joke of an OU offense, and credit A&M's defense for holding the Sooners' prolific offense 3 separate times on the 1-yard line. They certainly, the fans haven't been chanting "Wrecking Crew" in Mike Sherman's 3 years in College Station, that's for sure. So A&M, a very nice victory. Oklahoma now suddenly with 2 losses is, they're going to need some help from Oklahoma State, and if they want to win the Big 12 South. And now suddenly, the last game of the season, Oklahoma against Oklahoma State, could very well determine the South, and Oklahoma has to go on the road to Stillwater to win that game, and the Sooners have struggled on the road. So it's looking more and more like an uphill battle here for Bob Stoops and the Sooners. The next one that I missed, Texas Tech 24, Missouri 17. How about this one? I thought, Missouri, they lost 1 game last week. I thought they would bounce back here after that loss to Nebraska, but that was not the case. Texas Tech playing very well, limiting Blaine Gabbert, who was only 12 of 30 for 95 yards and no touchdowns. Just a puzzling line there if you're Missouri. I mean, Gabbert usually spreading the ball to all of his receivers, spreading the wealth. That was not the case against Texas Tech. And I think the 3rd downs really told the story in this game. Missouri was 1 of 12 and converting 3rd downs, and the Red Raiders 10 of 23, converting at a considerably higher and more successful clip. That was one of the main storylines to me in this game. Another one, Steven Sheffield for Texas Tech, got the start at quarterback in place of Taylor Potts. Didn't really have the spark that Sheffield often had last season for the Red Raiders. Taylor Potts coming in off the bench, replacing Sheffield late in the first half, and igniting Texas Tech to this victory. Let's face it, Potts threw 3 touchdowns, and I know he's not the most popular guy in Lubbock, but he really, I don't want to say he won the game because Texas Tech's defense played so well, but he really ignited that offense and gave him a spark that Sheffield didn't have on Saturday. So credit Taylor Potts, and credit Texas Tech for that huge victory. That's another one that I missed. I missed a lot of them this week, if you haven't noticed already. The final one that I missed, how about K-State 39, Texas 14? This is incredible. K-State's now won 3 straight over Texas, and the Longhorns are just free-falling into a forgettable season that is just, it's a nightmare season for KU, for UT, and it just continues here. It's obvious that UT has many problems on this team, but I think one of them that's up there with the biggest of the problems is the run defense. And the evidence on that is K-State started Colin Klein, who surprisingly got the start over Carson Kaufman. But Klein, he was only 2 of 4. I have to laugh a little bit on this, I'm sorry. 2 for 4 for 9 yards in the air, and he was sacked twice. Yet it didn't matter. K-State still won convincingly, 39-14. With no passing game at all, and it didn't really matter, and that's because Klein and Daniel Thomas combined for 233 rushing yards and 4 touchdowns. Texas couldn't stop them on the ground, and the Longhorns now find themselves in last place in the Big 12 South. What is going on here in the Big 12? It seems like everything's turned upside down. You have Oklahoma State and Baylor, who were fighting it out for first place in the Big 12 South. Texas is last. I don't know what's going on here, but this is really crazy. Texas just not a good season. Not a good season for Mac Brown and the Horns, who have to win 2 of their last 3 games just to make a bowl. Wow, crazy. I did pick 2 games correct, a whopping 2 games here. Nebraska 31-30 over Iowa State. The Huskers needing overtime just to beat Iowa State, and Iowa State going for a fake extra point in overtime to win at home, but failed on the attempt, and that's how Nebraska won. And then Oklahoma State 55, Baylor 28. The Cowboys securing first place in the Big 12 South with that victory. And now, the Cowboys controlling their own destiny. They've never won the Big 12 South. They have never played in a Big 12 championship game. They could finally do that this season. There's no way that I would have thought that would have happened this season. But like I said, everything seems to be a little reversed in the Big 12 these days. So Oklahoma State, prolific offense. Give them credit for beating Baylor and taking care of business at home. I am out of breath. I am officially out of breath in reflecting in what was a wild and crazy week in the Big 12 here in Week 10. I didn't pick a lot of games right, but I love these weeks. These weeks are, it's what makes watching college football so exciting. It's what makes the Big 12 so exciting. It seems like anybody can beat anybody on any given week, and that was the case here in Week 10 in the Big 12. So I appreciate you guys checking out the latest episode of Conference Chatter TV. I'm Eric Sorrentino. I will try to do better next week, but for now, I am out, and I'll talk to you guys again in a few days. Thanks a lot.